Estimating that today is a bit eerie, brothers cover up with blankets. Netizens share one after another. This guy from Kunming, his hometown is in Dalishan. A few years ago, an elder in his family passed away, and he rushed back to mourn. The family tomb is in the deep mountains, close to the mountaintop, and it's also a place that was specifically chosen by someone. This path from the foot of the mountain is hard to walk, taking more than an hour. This guy's family is also considered a large family, and the elder's funeral was handled very beautifully. However, there is a local rule that a new grave cannot be touched within 3 days after it is repaired. Because this guy's family is relatively wealthy, it's inevitable that some people would be envious and try to sabotage. So his uncle arranged for a few people to stay and guard. There were 6 people in 3 days, including his aunt and his uncle, another uncle, and the other 3 people were the cousins of his aunt. At that time, it was almost 5 o'clock when the new grave was ready, and everyone else had left. The aunt and they also started to set up tents, but after a while, it started to drizzle. Around 7 o'clock in the evening, the rain got heavier and heavier, it could be said to be a downpour. They couldn't stand it anymore. The aunt's uncle suggested retreating to the quarry halfway up the mountain. There is a relatively safe large platform there, and the 6 people immediately went to the quarry. Strangely, this quarry is bustling with workers and machine noise during the day, but at night, there is no light at all, and there are no workers guarding. The 6 people found a 4-story building at the farthest end of the quarry, very new, it feels like it was built 3 or 4 years ago. But many doors are open, and there is no one inside. So the 6 people found a room on the first floor with intact doors and windows, and then went in. They propped the door with a wooden stick, preparing to make do for the night and explain to the quarry people the next day. After entering the room, they found that the house had living facilities, but there was no electricity. The sofa was moldy, the walls were covered with moss, and there was a thick layer of dust on the ground. It seems that someone lived here, but it should have been abandoned later. This is very unreasonable, after all, in the quarry, this building should be used frequently. Even if the workers are tired and don't clean up, it won't be so dirty. Everyone found it strange, but the rain outside was getting heavier and heavier, and they could only hide in the room. Fortunately, their uncle brought a simple heating stove that came in handy. Those people dismantled the wooden benches, lit a fire, made a bonfire, and started to roast their clothes. After roasting for almost, they moved the sofa next to the fire, formed a circle, and lay down on the sofa to sleep. They were very tired from working during the day, and soon everyone fell asleep. And this aunt vaguely heard the children's low laughter in her sleep. She turned over, thinking it was dawn, and the workers of this market came to work, maybe bringing their children. In a daze, she opened her eyes a little and saw 7 or 8 children roasting around the bonfire, and her cousin across the aunt also opened his eyes and looked, obviously very scared. It was still dark, and it was not yet dawn. The cousin was sweating profusely. At that time, the aunt saw a child about 5 years old lying on the ground touching the cousin's knee. So these children are basically 4 to 10 years old, some are not wearing clothes, some are wearing clothes, some are purple, red, like small cotton jackets. You can clearly feel that their skin color is light purple, very strange. You can see the child, but if you want to look closely at a part of him, it is very blurred. At this time, the cousin had already found that a child was touching his knee, and his whole body was shivering. The aunt also got goosebumps because it was too strange. Suddenly, the cousin across the room suddenly jumped up, jumped onto the sofa, and kept jumping, afraid that the children would touch him. And the child who touched his knee also froze, raised his hand and stood still. The uncle, another uncle, and the cousins were all awakened, and they all vaguely opened their eyes. Everyone was frightened by the scene in front of them, looking at each other, looking blank. And those children looked at them expressionlessly. The first one to react was the aunt's uncle. He scolded directly, and the uncle and another brother also scolded, and patted the sofa with their hands. At this time, the door they propped with a stick was slammed open, and the stick was also broken with a bang, as if a very strong person had kicked it from the outside. Those people couldn't help but look at the door. It was dark outside the door, and there was the sound of rain, and they couldn't see anything. If it wasn't for the jump just now, this door would definitely not open. So how did these children get in? The 6 people stared at the door for about 2 seconds, then turned back, and the children disappeared. Everyone was scared and huddled together, not knowing what to do. The uncle is the oldest among the group. They analyzed that something should have happened. This place is a bit wrong, but it's still raining outside, and they can't go out. So, the aunt and the young people were arranged to urinate at the door. After that, everyone dared not sleep, so they chatted to distract themselves. The aunt looked at the time, 1:43 in the morning. At this time, the cousin suddenly whispered to everyone to look at the window diagonally opposite him. Then everyone moved their gazes and found that the group of children were lying on the window watching, the 6 of them. They were chilled to the bone, huddled closer. Because these children had no expressions, just staring at them. They were not tall, like a row of small heads placed at the position of the window. Very strange. Suddenly, there was a flash of thunder. They disappeared again, and the aunt and they were all stunned. They looked out of the window, looking blank. No one dared to sleep anymore, so they cursed together. The uncle also contacted the family, asking them to come and pick them up as soon as it was light. In this way, nothing happened in the middle of the night until after 5 o'clock. In the morning, the rain stopped, and the workers came in succession. As for the aunt, they also told the workers and the boss of the market why they stayed here. The boss invited them to the office and told them that not far from this place, there is a mass grave, where they used to bury those children who died from miscarriages. Later, with the improvement of the medical system, this practice was abolished. So in this place, non-ferrous metals and ores were discovered, and at that time, in order to pursue benefits, mining companies were introduced. At that time, the mass grave was also considered, but because many people were unwilling to admit that it was their child, over time, the mass grave was not properly dealt with. There is often a thick fog around the mass grave, which is very strange. The boss said that at the beginning, there was a non-ferrous metal company in their place, and they also encountered many incredible things, and slowly went bankrupt. When their market started, they often saw children running around at night during construction. At first, they thought it was someone's child and told the child to be careful, but later they found that these children were looming, and they also knew that something was wrong. This small building was specially built by the boss to take care of the workers who were inconvenient to go home. Later, a group of workers got drunk at night and found a child stealing their things and lying on them. A worker slapped one of the children, and an accident happened the next day. There were also some female workers who always had inexplicable miscarriages after getting pregnant. Slowly, no one dared to stay here overnight, and the boss also invited many people to come and see, but it was useless. So after this incident, the cousin who jumped on the sofa among the 6 people broke his leg while riding a motorcycle. It's also very strange to say, it was obviously a minor bump, but it was broken. And his cousin has been riding a motorcycle for more than 10 years, he looks very confused, can't believe it, but the other 5 people are fine. So this story tells us, brothers should treat every life kindly. If they really don't want children, they should also deal with it properly. Well, see you next story.